All right. I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on everything here. Da, da, da. All right. Looks like we got a good bit of people already jumping in. If anybody's able to throw something in the chat real quick or just a quick hello, make sure that we're not speaking to a void here. That would be great. Maybe March Madness. Who you guys have winning? Could be a good fun one. I will start. I got Duke. While we wait for some brave soul to stake their claim in the chat here.
You're
Somebody
close
confirm
to
I'm
my
not talking.
town. What if we throw out just UNC just to throw a fight in the mix?
That's fine by me. Fine by me.
I have
Anybody?
no clue of any of the college basketball teams, so I'm no help on this one.
Somebody throw something in the chat. Give me a sign of life, please, so that I know that we don't speak to nobody for the next 45 minutes. Oh, okay. Never mind. Somebody just said chat is not available. Show me a sign of life any way that you can. Or potentially not if it's just not actually available. I'm just going to assume then that everybody's able to hear us. We'll give everyone another minute or two to jump in, and then we'll kick things off. But really excited to. Oh, there we go. We did get something. The Q&A. We got a hey. All right, can be heard. Appreciate whoever did that. Give everybody another minute or two, but have a great webinar ahead of us. Super excited. I'm really looking forward to running through everything, and definitely want to keep this fairly conversational, interactive. So, okay, everybody's flying in now, or throwing some stuff in the chat. Perfect. The Q&A, I suppose, rather. So feel free to, at any point in time, throw something in the Q&A. We got another Duke. Sweet. Anybody who has a question at any point in time, feel free to throw it in there. We'll make sure that we answer it either during the conversation, or we have some time reserved for questions as well. And it looks like we got some Dukes, we got some Arizonas. We're all afraid of anything but a 1 seed is my takeaway. Fair enough. Luckily, none of those teams are playing right now, which is, I assume, a big piece of why we're all here. Cool. Well, I think we should be good to go ahead and kick things off then. Just to introduce myself real quick, my name's Will. I'm our senior account executive at BluShark Digital. At BluShark, I say that we do kind of everything under the digital umbrella, but really our bread and butter is search engine optimization. And these days, a lot of AI search engine optimization, as well as things like paid ads, et cetera, essentially helping to boost your presence, help drive leads through your website, through any digital channel. Been with the agency for about 7 years or so. My background is spending a couple years in our teams internally, both in our link building department, and then a couple years as one of our senior level strategists. So, my background is very much in all these things that we're going to talk about today. Madison, Ari, do you guys want to introduce yourself, introduce Leap?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here with all of you today. As Will said, my name is Madison. I am a business development specialist here at LEAP. To give you some insight on what that means, LEAP is an all-in-one practice management solution. For me, though, I get to partner with law firms across the U.S. to identify inefficiencies in current systems, help them implement smarter technology that helps you save time, but also increases profitability. So that's me, Ari.
Yeah, thanks for having us both. And my name's Ari. I am the Director of Estate Planning Administration here at LEAP. So I oversee a very specific area of law that we focus on here. And I had practiced in California for multiple years. I'd worked in finance prior to law, got into practice, and at the sort of tail end of my private practice was working pretty heavily in estate planning administration. And now I'm in legal tech, and I am here working with Leap. I'm very excited to be here, and really enjoy working with law firms and helping them be more efficient.
Appreciate it. And then just before we jump into things, a quick heads up, we are going to release a couple polls throughout the presentation. We are also going to have a QR code at the end of the presentation that you guys can scan. It'll allow you to receive a copy of everything. There is a lot of information that we're going to run through and want to make sure that you guys get some more detailed notes on all of that as well. And we'll also send a recording to anybody who registered just to make sure that you guys have all the information that we discussed. So, quick show of hands, maybe this might be a good time to check on the poll or the raise hand feature. Very curious if in your guys' day-to-day experiences, if you have begun using any of these different AI search engines. There are a huge variety of different AI search engines, right? Have them listed out here: Perplexity, Anthropic, Copilot, Meta AI, ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok. But for today's purposes, we are really going to be focusing on ChatGPT and on Gemini. Now, a big part of the reason why, as an agency, we have focused on these two platforms in particular is because they also give this the ability to have some reliable tracking to go alongside of it. And that's been one of the biggest things on our end that we have been really focused on, is making sure that we aren't just trying things for the sake of trying them, but we're trying them in ways that we can actually track and understand them. So, for the purpose of this conversation, we are going to be focused very heavily on ChatGPT and on Gemini, which are two of the more widely adopted ones in day-to-day use as well. To kick things off, we're going to look at ChatGPT in particular. Now, one thing that's interesting is we have found that ChatGPT is showing results that are oftentimes very similar to organic Google rankings. In general, something that we've learned is that there's anywhere from an 80 to 90%, let's say, overlap in your traditional SEO compared to your visibility on AI search engines. Really, the fundamentals are still extremely important in this visibility, but also important, of course, is that 10 to 15%, 20% maybe overlap or things that aren't overlapping between the two different search engines. And so, yes, the fundamentals remain key. They remain extremely important. But if we want to achieve visibility on AI search, we also need to understand exactly what makes them different, right? And optimize specifically for those things that make them different. Couple fundamentals just to jump right into it for ChatGPT. So stuff that we have found, right, is a great way to think of it is to almost consider it to be allowing everywhere on the internet to tell the search engine, why you're great. A couple things just to list them out real quick, right? Results, so your verdicts, your settlements, but also making sure that we have the schema associated with our site to allow the search engines to crawl and understand those verdicts and settlements. Your awards and your recognitions, things like super lawyers, best law firm, et cetera, and the schema and markup to go alongside of those. Testimonials, and these can be reviews not just on your Google business profile, but on your website, on Yelp, on social, et cetera. This is a big piece that we'll circle back on. Lawyer profiles as well, things like lawyers.com, Avo, et cetera. And then your press and authority. So it could be Wikipedia, it could be press releases, it could be a local list of the best X in your community. All great opportunities for us to really focus on ways that we can tell the search engine why we're great, right? How we have experience, expertise, authority, and trust, not just through our own words, right, but also through others' words in a variety of different ways. A big thing that's important to note here is that schema markup component, right? It's one thing to have it listed on your site. It's another thing to organize it and structure it in a way in which the search engine's really able to crawl and easily understand, exactly how this information should be obtained. But it's also not as simple as just doing these things, right? It's also a little bit deeper. So, one thing that we found is I'm sure a lot of you guys receive emails very regularly for, hey, pay us whatever for super lawyers or all of these different things. Whether they're things that you have already been doing or things that you've been interested in, it's not just having the achievement itself, but it's also making sure that we are bragging on it, right? Putting it on our website, making sure that it's structured in the right way, but also how we're engaging with that lawyer profile. So, making sure that we have the profiles themselves optimized. We're putting every detail that we need to in the descriptions, getting it reviews, keeping it active, all of these things. Stuff that, historically, yes, has been fundamentally, somewhat important from an SEO standpoint, but crucially important these days to really make sure that we're checking all the boxes there. Similar for the testimonials, the results, and the press, right? It's taking the extra step beyond what was and is still kind of good enough for Google, but placing some extra emphasis in here and consistently revisiting these things as opportunities, understanding that it's also important for the AI search engines. One thing, just action item wise, that I would encourage anybody listening to do is to identify, one best of opportunity in your market, right? It could be best law firm, it could be best small business. I'm sure that everybody who checks to find one will find one in either their community or their greater community. And then really encouraging your audience, right, your team, just everybody who you can to vote for you all. This is a great low-hanging fruit opportunity, and definitely something that can be done with or without an agency. And that's definitely a quick, easy takeaway. Just to show you guys a little bit of how this looks in practice, there's a couple case studies that we have run with firms, and it's been a big focus of ours really over the past year to be able to kind of put a formula behind this, right? Anybody that tells you that there is an exact formula with AI search is, probably, speaking in ways that they can't always control. There's not always an exact formula, but there are absolutely principles, and it's continuously looking at these principles. Now, what we have found specifically is that, right, standing out means using every advantage opportunity that we have and leveraging it to the best of our ability. So you can see in this example here, right, a firm that we work with showing up in that first position for Coachella Valley injury lawyer. And you can see that they are going back, they're citing the website itself, right? And they're also citing some valuable information that they've pulled through these principles. So long-established firm, strong track record of multi-million-dollar recoveries, right? And serious injury and wrongful death cases. So, not too many firms can say that they've recovered, $1 billion for their clients, but if you can, you should, right? And I would argue that you're doing yourself a disservice by not bragging about these things on your site in the correct way. I would definitely encourage everybody to find their total of recovery in addition to publishing their verdicts and settlements regularly to the extent in which you're able to. Make sure that you are taking all of the great things that you're already doing and you're allowing the search engines and the AI search engines to understand that you guys are real. You're out there, you're getting, these results for your clients, and you're using things that make you different, right? Maybe you're a small boutique firm. Rather than hiding from that, if that's your brand, make sure that we are promoting that effectively. So this is stuff that we, in this instance, placed pretty strategically throughout the site. We also backed it up with the coding and the schema to allow it to shine. And then as a result, you can see that it's absolutely something that ChatGPT is going through and recognizing. And this helps, not just on ChatGPT, but also on Gemini. And we'll talk about the differences here shortly. Another piece that remains important, and if you listen to any webinars, you go to conferences, I'm sure that you have just had this beaten in your brain, time and time again, but it's the power of reviews. And one of the more interesting things that we've found is that on ChatGPT, they are still referencing the Google Business Profile and the Google Business Profile reviews. And they do so through some third-party data aggregators, but it is still extremely important to make sure that we are not just getting reviews, right? But we're also encouraging people to leave any information that they are comfortable with on those reviews. I think a great place to start is if you're asking somebody to leave a review, right? You can say, if you don't mind saying where we helped you, right? What case type we helped you with, and one thing that you enjoyed specifically about working with our firm. It's a great way just to organically, naturally get some strong information here. And you can see that, mid 2025, you can see that the ChatGPT results were featuring just one answer when they were searching for the best personal injury law firm in X city, right? It featured the location, the review rating, the review count, everything that was pulled from that Google Business Profile. The other piece that is worth noting, however, is that there wasn't a call to action available. So something that makes tracking of this a little bit more difficult is, oftentimes if somebody is finding you through an AI search, it will present them with the answer, right? And then they may go run a search on a Google, right? More of the conversion piece. And so it can make the tracking a little bit more difficult, which is why no matter what tracking you have in place, we always encourage people to also ask, right, as a part of the intake or throughout the case process, just to get both sides of the story. If I found you through ChatGPT, I went and then ran a search in Google and then called you through Google, right? The tracking for that may oftentimes show up as, or typically would show up as, through Google Organic, but that may not paint the full picture. Another instance of the testimonials and the impact that they have on your visibility. So you can see here, right, very specifically is citing the top personal injury lawyers and showing the ones that are highly rated. You can see it even says, highly rated locally and experience in handling, right? Car accidents, truck, slip and fall, all of the things that, we're not just listing on our site, but people are also referencing in their reviews. And so as of late 2025, we are still seeing, or we're still seeing rather, strong correlation to gaining consistent reviews on your Google Business Profile to showing in ChatGPT. All that to say that review rating does matter, right? It is very important, even if you find that your audience that would typically come in through Google search isn't the perfect audience for your case, but the audience that may come in through an AI search is a better one. It's still important to push reviews to your Google Business Profile because that correlation is there. It's also important to say that it's not necessarily about having the most reviews, but also the consistency around getting new reviews, right? It doesn't have to be 50 reviews every month, although that's absolutely great. It can be 2 to 3 each week. It just really is about the consistency as well. We saw close to 10 out of our 10 case studies in this, element specifically, that ranking in ChatGPT came alongside consistently getting new reviews every week. So even if you have 500 reviews, if we aren't getting at least a couple consistently, we haven't found that to perform as well. Search engines absolutely looking for the fact that we are active, but that the consumers are also consistently and constantly engaging, with the business, reviewing the business, all positive values here. Another quick study on the lawyer profiles, right? And the importance of having those optimized. You can see in these orange boxes here, they're pulling from Avo, for example. And so we've tested optimizing a number of different fields within these profiles, descriptions, FAQs, reviews, etc. And the general consensus, shockingly, is to keep the profile active and engage with all fields, right? If you have the ability to use a field to provide information, take advantage of it. But really importantly, make sure that this is something that is completed for all of the lawyers at the firm, and also make sure that the profile is attached to their bio page on your website, right? Just help make that correlation. Shifting gears a little bit, we'll talk about Gemini. Now, Gemini is very interesting because it is consistently just impacting the way that Google is even traditionally showing their search engine page. And I'm sure that this is something that you guys have seen in your day-to-day life, right? The AI overviews, and it's ever evolving the way that Google is showing this information. And one thing that we have learned about Google Gemini, right, is shockingly, again, similar to Google search engine algorithm, right? It's owned by Google. So this is something where, it's very important, of course, to note that it is heavily influenced by the organic content algorithm and how you structure and write the content on your website. Some of the differences between AI overviews and AI mode, if anybody's interacted with AI mode, right, this is how you really shift exactly in to the Gemini experience. The AI overviews are going to be summaries from web pages that answer questions, and it's going to be kind of found at the top of the page. But AI mode has to be toggled on, right? It's more of that chatbot experience, something a little bit more similar to the ChatGPT experience, where you keep asking it questions, etc. We're, of course, seeing strong correlation of AI mode results being pulled directly from the local pack. We know and we see consistently that if you rank in that local 3-pack, you have a very solid chance of being discussed in AI mode, right? So kind of that double hit here. All that to say, right, the AI overviews very focused on content specifically and making sure that we are producing content that answers questions in a way that is intuitive. So rather than, a very long, page of content just for the sake of it, we're finding that very direct question answers is something that is working really well. Gemini AI is not limited, however, to the overviews, right? It sometimes will show a 3-pack. This is just something that we have found that is reinforcing our beliefs that that 3-pack isn't going anywhere. Rather, it's kind of evolving and becoming a feature in Gemini's AI platform. So just the continued importance there is what we're finding. Some of the fundamentals here include the on-page content optimizations, schema markup, right, results, testimonials, etc. This was based on a year of case studies. The main 3 items that we found you want to be focusing on to rank in the AI overviews. And you'll note it's slightly different from the ChatGPT optimizations. Same thing, fundamentals plus a couple additional best practices. So the topic clusters is something that I alluded to previously, where something that we found a little bit newer here. You're no longer just wanting to focus on one keyword string per page necessarily, but focusing on using more synonyms, writing holistically about a practice area. So also depth of content underneath the page is being recognized favorably. So seeing that there are more pages on the topic, not just one as well. Things like content silos also playing a big role here. So essentially just providing the best information possible to answer that question. And then some other things here that we are seeing, right? Another one I like to note is just putting the answer near the top of the page. Avoid a long intro, right? That is something that we found to correlate and to be helpful here. A couple case studies real quick. Some real examples here of content structure placing you in the Gemini AI overviews. You can see an example of using a tool like Ahrefs to look up what phrases are being searched the most in your market, which also will tell you how much traffic is being generated on the sites. If you see that there is no traffic coming through to the site, it typically is a good indicator that there isn't that it's not a web page answering that question currently, right? And that can be a good place to start. So then, what you would want to do is create that topic on your website as a page. And we're seeing that get picked up in as quickly as 24 to 48 hours. And that element of the content gap analysis being crucial. Another example here of what we were talking about previously of just those topic clusters and the silos of content. So if you notice, when we built out a depth of content, the search result summarizes that this firm handles a number of cases related to birth trauma, not just birth trauma. So really an indication that we're well-rounded, a real expert as far as Google in their AI overview is concerned. And you can see this firm that we work with kind of boxed in here. And then I'm going to rapid fire through a couple of these. You can see that verdicts and settlements also helpful here, just like on ChatGPT. And another example of where it mentions in the results, strong record, securing significant settlements or verdicts, often on a contingency fee basis, known for handling severe cases, right? Securing compensation in a second spot. And just another key thing that we found, right, pointing back to that schema and markup importance. And so it's not just having the information, but making sure that it's marked up on the back end structurally in the right way. Testimonials here, right? Another example, just like ChatGPT, strong client testimonials for professionalism and communication. You can see that, very clearly broken down. And then with the GBP reviews, once again, that consistency in the review generation was showing firms in the AI overviews. And you can see that, time and time again, those reviews, that piece is extremely important. And then this is a little bit more into the AI mode specifically, where you can see just a quick visual image of what it looks like, how it's pulling answers that are in the local pack. And you'll note that initially here, there is not a conversion or a call now piece, but if you click the name of the firm, it does open up to the Google Business Profile to convert here, a little bit more like what you'll see on the next slide. So, that conversion piece, while it is slowly maybe getting a little bit better and better. It's still a little bit muddier, and so you do want to consistently keep asking people. AI mode does allow you to connect with the law firm, and it's even more important to get into that local pack to make sure that you're showing in AI mode. And then a quick summary here, just some of the biggest things that we have found to be extremely important. The black text you'll see is like the same, it's the fundamentals. But what you'll find in blue are just the most important things that we have found to have importance when looking at one or the other. So for Gemini AIOs, right, that content optimization being extremely important. And of course, that's important for ChatGPT as well. But specifically with ChatGPT, we're finding that the awards and recognitions, Wikipedia, press releases, Reddit, places off your site also being extremely important. And the most important thing I want to stress is that if you want to show up everywhere, if you want to have Google Organic, Gemini, ChatGPT, you need to put resources and time into showing up into these places. It is not a one-trick pony approach. And even if there is a large portion of overlap, all it takes is a couple competitors to do those extra bits of things to really build that correlation and achieve that visibility. Search is continuing to evolve. We're seeing more and more volume go through some of these AI search engines. And I really do feel that now is a extremely crucial time to make sure it's incorporated into your strategy and try and achieve as much visibility as you can before others, in your market really start taking advantage of that. And I'm going to turn it over now to Ari and Madison, who are going to talk a little bit more about kind of how to deal with the structural components of the firm and be set up for success to handle these different cases.
Yep. Thank you so much, Will. That was amazing. I'm just going to move you guys a little bit. There we go. Now I got my Zoom figured out. You guys can see it, right? We're good? Okay, awesome. So one of the biggest goals firms are focused on right now is streamlining processes. So the question becomes, what should firms actually focus on to create a more streamlined practice? First and foremost, law firms across the US are increasingly adopting AI to improve efficiency and accuracy in core functions such as legal research, contract analysis, and document drafting. AI can analyze large data sets within seconds, so dramatically reducing routine workload and allowing attorneys to work on higher value strategic work. So we're also seeing major growth in AI-powered time tracking. Instead of manually entering time at the end of the day, or even worse, trying to recreate it at the end of the week, systems can now capture time automatically in the background. So whether billing hourly or fixed fee, automated time tracking does improve productivity tracking, as well as increases profitability and reduces missed billables. Another key to streamlining is standardizing workflows. So creating checklists and templates for common tasks such as intake, client meetings, and drafting. This does help ensure that everyone handles similar matters the same way. So when workflows are built directly into your practice management software and integrated with calendaring, everyone can stay aligned a little more easily. There's uniformity across the firm, matters look the same, files are searchable the same way, and this can help reduce mistakes, improve organization, and help new staff get up to speed much faster. Streamlining your process also means improving how you communicate with clients. So online intake forms can help reduce the back and forth of phone calls and emails. Client portals make it easier to securely share documents, comment, or collaborate. Automated appointment scheduling and reminders via text or email are far more efficient than traditional phone confirmations, not only for the firm itself, but also for the client. Effective delegation. This is another major component. So when routine tasks can be assigned through an integrated system, complete with calendaring and matter tracking, paralegals and legal assistants can actually do more in less time. AI can also even help you review matter correspondence and generate first drafts within seconds instead of hours. And of course, strong bookkeeping processes supported by the right software are critical because getting paid is one of the most important parts of running a firm. So centralized calendaring is essential, especially for litigation-based practices like family law, probate, and litigation. Having automatic reminders and court-ruled-based deadline calculations reduces the risk of missed deadlines. Time tracking tools also give you insight into where effort is being spent, helping you monitor productivity and profitability. Strong processes don't just protect against errors, they actually prevent against burnout as well. And then finally, streamlining isn't just about implementation. It's about continuous improvement. Built-in reporting tools allow you to track key metrics such as how much time am I spending per case? What are my turnaround times? What does staff performance look like? Where are my profitability gaps? Reports give you visibility, and visibility is the first step toward improvement. Even small changes, improving by just 1%, can significantly impact profitability over time. Ultimately, all of this allows attorneys to focus on higher value legal work, which is why you went to law school in the first place. No one went to law school to spend hours on tedious administrative work. Ari, would you like to elaborate a little more here?
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that, that they do very little in law school to teach you how to run a business. And what we're here to talk about today, we're talking about the flow from a pretty significant increase in leads into your practice and managing that. Most of my colleagues that have worked with a company such as BluShark, or they've worked on their own building out some of the tools that they've put into their websites and all that, when you turn on that tap, it can be a floodgate that you just open. And so as you really need to prepare ahead of time, because the initial lead management and staying on top of those is one of the first cracks that can show. So it's about being efficient with not just the day-to-day basics, but how do you manage the lead workflow? How do you evaluate those leads, and how do you keep on top of them, on top of the rest of the caseload that you've already had the entire time. So what I usually recommend is evaluating these tools that we're talking about, and sort of generically talking about AI tools and practice management tools, getting that ahead of time and getting your processes set up ahead of time so that the things that while you can't predict everything possible, you'll be well ahead to reduce the admin load and to help out with your staff. And really, as Madison was talking about, this isn't just a set it and forget it thing. You really need to evaluate what you've been doing so far, iterate on that, and continue to adopt, especially as you're growing, and including even using AI tools to start to evaluate your task management and handing that off.
Thanks, Ari. Okay, so as mentioned throughout this presentation, AI is changing the way law firms work faster and more fundamentally than any other prior technology shift. So it's reshaping workflows, staffing, client expectations, and even the economics of legal practice. So when investigating practice management software, it is important to ask which AI tools are available and evaluate how they will benefit your firm. So earlier we did talk about the streamlining processes. Now let's take that one step further. The reality is this: many of the tasks law firms perform every single day now have AI tools designed specifically to make that process faster. When firms adopt a suite of AI tools, the impact isn't incremental. It can actually be transformational. So let's walk through what that looks like. First and foremost, AI-powered research tools can review case laws, statutes, and regulations within seconds. They can summarize legal concepts, identify key fact patterns, and even flag missing issues or additional authorities that you may not have considered. The impact is associates can spend far less time on routine research, and firms deliver work product much faster and cost effectively. Generative AI is now assisting with drafting briefs, memos, contracts, emails, and discovery responses. It can spot inconsistencies, highlight missing clauses, compare drafts, and summarize lengthy documents almost instantly. The shift here is powerful. Lawyers move from creating everything from scratch to curating and refining high quality drafts. So that's a major efficiency gain. When AI is integrated directly into practice management software, it can automatically create task and timelines, suggest follow-ups and deadlines, extract key information from emails and PDFs, generate concise matter summaries, and so much more. So this can lead to more consistent workflows, fewer missed deadlines, and significantly reduce clerical burden on your staff. AI powered systems can automatically capture activities as you work. So they can draft time entries and categorize work under the appropriate billing codes. And the potential impact for this is higher billable time captured, improved profitability, and fewer billing disputes. So AI also enables more strategic decision making. So it can assist with rapid analysis of legal options and risks, support data driven litigation strategy, and even provide predictive insights around likely outcomes, timelines, or costs. Some firms are even implementing AI assistants to support always on client communication. So this allows firms to provide more value with fewer delays, improving both the client satisfaction as well as your competitiveness. So AI reduces the need for large associate classes, outsourced document, review vendors, and certain routine paralegal tasks. At the same time, it can open the door to new pricing models, fixed fee services, subscription-based offerings, and self-service client portals as well. Firms that understand this shift can really rethink both pricing strategy and talent structure as well. AI doesn't replace lawyers. It's changing how they operate. So lawyers increasingly becoming editors, strategists, and supervisors of AI generated work. We're seeing growth in knowledge management roles such as legal operations professionals, data analysis, and technologists within firms. The modern attorney actually becomes what many call the T-shaped lawyer, which is deep legal expertise combined with technological fluency. AI tools can help spot conflicts of interest, detect billing anomalies, and enforce document retention and security policies. So this can help reduce malpractice exposure and strengthen regulatory compliance. And clients are becoming more sophisticated. They may expect firms to use AI to deliver work faster, more affordably, and with greater transparency. Firms that adopt AI strategically could gain a measurable performance and pricing advantage over those that delayed the adoption. But here's the most important part. AI is the starting point. It's not a replacement. It's meant to assist the attorney, not replace the attorney. Ari, would you like to add some more here?
Yeah, I'd say the most common thing that I've heard with AI tools that work effectively for the firms is they become less concerned with tedious data entry and more they look more at it as a review process, which is great. It is AI tools in general, even just out to the generic chat GPTs and Geminis that are out there. They're great at evaluating large amounts of data, and the real fact is they just can read faster than you can. So there's a lot of great analytical tools that come out of that, and you get to be more of reviewing what's coming in rather than doing the manual data entry. And obviously, as part of that whole conversation, and I do want to touch on what the client part of this as well. We do need to think about the ethical issues that are, and I'm not just talking about the hot topic of hallucinations. Really, what we're seeing today in real time are opinions and ethical decisions coming around the concept of client communications, third party tools being involved in potentially waiving confidentiality, and your clients going out and using AI tools to sometimes spot check against your advice or your legal strategies and all of that. And what that means is you're getting maybe a more sophisticated client, but they might be asking questions that you weren't expecting, and preemptively being aware that clients are going to use these tools because everybody's using these tools in their daily lives now, that they may go take on these tasks, and you should be preemptively warning them about the effect of potentially waiving confidentiality, and especially if they're going to fact check what you're saying against them. It's just like having another person in the room when you're about to have that confidential conversation and telling them, hey, this you may be waiving privilege at this time if you have this person stay. So I think if you go into it understanding that these tools are everywhere, not just used in law firms, but they're used by people that you're looking at for prospects who are evaluating you, your website, everything that you're saying, and using these tools. And I think finally, just to kind of get into what that meant, from the billing model, there you're seeing some of the largest law firms in the world right now having their clients come to them and say, I know you're using AI and I know you're using it and I expect you to use it. And what they're saying, they may be saying, I expect a lower bill, but they're also saying they expect you to be more efficient and potentially more responsive. And so that lead that comes in potentially the middle of the night, they may actually be expecting some sort of communication coming back. And that's where, these tools can really come into play and be a part of your overall tech stack and how your lead system works.
Thanks, sorry.
Sure.
Moving it. Now that we've talked about efficiency, AI, and streamlining operations, let's bring this back to something practical. So if you're evaluating legal practice management solution, what core tools should you actually be looking for? Because the right system should directly support your firm's strategic goals, not just store files. There are a few key components that consistently drive efficiency, organization, and growth. First, a client intake system. This sets the tone for the entire client relationship. An effective intake system can streamline onboarding, improve responsiveness, and enhance the overall client experience from day one. It also supports conflict checking and helps ensure prospective clients don't fall through the cracks, which directly impacts your revenue. Next, centralized case and document management. All matter details, correspondence, notes, and files should live in one easily searchable location. This improves organization, strengthens collaboration across the firm, and drastically reduces the time spent hunting for information. So when everything is centralized, everything does move faster. Time tracking and billing are critical. AI-powered time tracking reduces the need for manual entry and records work as it happens. Automated billing allows firms to generate and send invoices more quickly, improving cash flow and increasing the likelihood of timely payment. Ultimately, it protects revenue that might otherwise be lost. Mobile functionality is no longer an option, so attorneys need the ability to access case information, communicate with clients, review documents, and manage tasks from anywhere. This flexibility does enhance the client service and keeps productivity high, even outside of the office. If you can't measure it, you can't improve it. Robust reporting and analytics tools gives firms visibility into performance, profitability, staff productivity, and operational gaps. Growth requires data, and data requires reporting. And finally, as we discussed AI-powered capabilities, AI can help you significantly reduce time spent on searching, drafting, searching through correspondence or documents. As technology continues to evolve, firms that explore and adopt AI strategically could remain more competitive, more efficient, and more profitable than those that don't. When all of these tools are integrated into one system rather than spread across disconnected platforms, that's when firms truly start to see meaningful operational improvement, because technology should simplify your practice and not complicate it. So Will, that is me. I'm going to go ahead and send this back to you.
Awesome. Now, as promised, we do have a setup here. I'm going to leave it open on this page, assuming that you guys can see it the way that I do, that you guys can scan to receive the presentation. I'm going to leave that up for a couple seconds. The next slide will have some contact information, but what I'd love to do is get a couple questions from the group. There was somebody who had their hand raised earlier, and I wasn't sure if that was just because I was asking for signs of life when there wasn't a good way to give it. But this would be a great time for some questions. Does look like we have a couple of them that have come through already, but I think a couple more would be great over the next next couple of minutes here. Give everybody another couple seconds. The question that we already received, and I think maybe this was something that you guys talked about, but maybe some more context would be helpful. The question is surrounding the how receptive clients are to like the AI process and it being a part of the process. Ari Madison, and that's definitely a question for you all. I'm curious to hear if there's any additional information that's helpful there.
Yeah, I can speak to that to some extent. I think overall clients are understanding that law firms are using these tools. I mean, the advertisements that go out about legal AI tools that are out there are not hidden just to the to our market, right? So there are plenty of them that not only understand these tools are in the practice, but they're also using it themselves. What that can mean is being able to have some of those tougher conversations about, the value of the service and that AI is not going to, take over that work and that you're obviously meeting your ethical standards of billing appropriately for it. But generally speaking, when firms are using the AI tools, especially through communication and some of those really basic introductory levels, so that you're helping it draft emails or correspondence or some basic letters, things like that. It is a huge time saver, and we're seeing a lot. Really, the law firms' clients are appreciative of that kind of detail that's coming out of it, so that you're not just it's something that you don't want to get started. You're able to actually get going much faster and be much more responsive and comprehensive.
So it sounds like you guys have found that the like experience and just the overall experience being improved is something that has really resulted in just an ideal experience for the client as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Another question from Tara. We are setting up a new three, soon to be four attorney firm. What should we be asking our website developer about AI? Like to get it right from the outset. Definitely wise. And it's hard for me to say specifically because every situation is going to be different. The markets are going to be different. But as far as like what you should ask the developer, I think a couple low hanging fruit pieces could be about the structure, right? Are we making sure that we're structuring the back end in a way that the search engines can crawl through, understand the schema, right? How are we wording the content itself on the page? Those are a couple good ones. And some other just general best practices, maybe not for the website developer, but how are we prioritizing things like reviews? What information is going to be priority, and maybe just helping to develop a good game plan in general, so that you can target the right clients, right, and produce the right information to do that. But Tara, I'd be happy as well to like look specifically into the market and give you a better answer there because it is going to be different. Foundations plus a lot of the things that we talked about would be the
Just to
answer.
piggyback off of that, Will, how often are you recommending people review their current website to see how it's working and whether it's being picked up by these engines and what the differences are between the standard search and what's coming up through the AI searches?
Yeah, so we provide monthly reporting for the firms that we work with. You don't want to be overly reactive necessarily, and there are a lot of factors that can come and play with results. So having a strong tool is really important. We look at reporting on a monthly basis, and then we do consistent like site refreshes where we're looking into the coding as best practices change and evolve. Typically anywhere from quarterly basis or so. It's also very specific on the situation. But in general, it is wise. Of course, best practices do continue to evolve, but fundamentals are also a thing for a reason. And making sure that you have that site experience, it's kind of twofold, where you have the need to do so from a visibility standpoint, but then also the user experience standpoint is another piece. And so you keep them separate, kind of, but also there's quite a bit of overlap. Um, and hopefully that answers your question, Tara,
Yep.
to the best of my ability.
Cool.
What other questions we got? Give me another one or two questions, people, and then you can get back to your brackets. Okay, here's another good question, and it looks like this one is again for Ari and for Madison. It is, how do we understand if it's the right time to invest in the infrastructure before the volume is there to support it? I'm curious to hear what you guys think about that.
Yeah, and I think that in general, because there's so many products now, especially with the AI boom that's going on, that it can look like there's a tool for everything. And one of the things to do really is to evaluate what the needs are and what's going to help. It's never too soon really to be evaluating, especially if you're setting up a new practice. It's great to be ahead of the game, setting up your website and doing all your work to start generating leads, but also to evaluate what tools you need going into it. And I think, at any point while in that setup process, that's really where you should be evaluating it. It's never too soon. But just keeping in mind, you don't need to buy everything up front, especially when it's disconnected, because you can end up with a lot of tools that you just shelve and you never touch. And so kind of seeing how those tools work together, as Madison was saying, making sure that they will not only help you, but they will work in a global aspect to help you manage your firm and the operational load that you're likely to get as soon as you turn on that tap.
Yeah, I was imagining the answer would be somewhat similar to that, right? Where it's basically um, everybody's growth process is going to be different, right? And that's actually a good segue to the other question that we got, and it was, how do I know which engine to focus on? And I assume that we're talking about the Chat GPT and the Gemini with that question. But if we want to just look at Google as a whole as well, I'd say that it really depends on what your goals are. We've found that different engines can work better for different clientele. If it's going to be, more of like a research heavy type of case, right? That's where like the AI results might be something that are important. So with all that to say, I would suppose it's going to be very specific to what your goals are, what audience you're looking to identify, right? How you want to grow, scale, and of course, it's not a now or never thing, right? Like it's not to say that if we don't optimize and put resources into all of them now that we can't do it in the future. So again, definitely specific to each situation, but also happy to chat and get more information to provide a better recommendation there. That's all the questions that we have. I'll leave it open for a couple more seconds here. Ari, Madison, anything that you guys wanted to add before we jumped off?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, I think we're set. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you both.
thanks for joining. Appreciate everybody who took some time to learn. And like I said, feel free to scan either of those QR codes, reach out to either of us, and look forward to hearing from you all soon. All right,
Thanks again.
bye everybody.
Bye. Thank you.